Well, hello there. I'm Bradley Sowash, jazz pianist and educator, and today I'm going to show you how to play a Christmas classic, an African American spiritual called Go Tell It on the Mountain. We're going to learn it by ear, so grab your instrument and maybe a piece of paper, and we will put this together in a jazzy, swingier way than probably is written in your books. So what I'll do is just play a little bit first so you see the gist of where we're going, and then I'll break it down for you. Nice to set a little gospel-y mood before we hit the tune. Yeah, good morning. So we're going to learn that tune, Go Tell It on the Mountain. And I want to greet some friends here. My top fan, says Facebook, Diana's here. She asked me to change the day of this. It's to accommodate her schedule, and somebody who comes to every live stream gets some extra clout in my decision-making when possible. So thank you, Diana, for giving me a push there. Sarah, a long-term student in my online jazz piano classes. Deanne, who entertains me every day with the most wonderful shared posts about music, humor, and interest. Elaine, thank you, Elaine. Love it, rocking out. Elaine's been an acquaintance from many years here in Columbus, Ohio, has since moved away from where I am now, and I've gotten to know her more since then by teaching my online jazz piano classes. So I really appreciate you dropping by here, and I'm very aware that these live streams get a lot more views after they're made with the replay, but I really like when people are here with me because I like teaching real people. Here's Sally. Thank you, Sally. You're so fun. And a student who I hate calling it adult accomplished pianist students, so a colleague who's learning my particular expertise, a very accomplished piano teacher, as are many of my students. All right, so we're going to do this in three parts. We're going to learn the melody, and then we're going to learn the sort of the standard chords, and then we're going to figure out how to jazz up those chords with an accompaniment and everything like that. So let's start with the melody. I'm not going to make this a theory lesson, but if you aren't familiar with the pentatonic scale, let's just think about it, because 100% of the melody notes in this song conform to the 5-note pentatonic scale. And it's interesting, as kids, we all were taught our scales of 7-note scales. We're in the key of G today, so G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And while that's true that that's the G major scale, there's just a ton of folk songs, spirituals, fiddle tunes, and even more composed songs that rely heavily on the heart of that, those 5 notes in the middle. They're not so much in the middle, but the 5 notes that are, just name them, G, A, B, D, E, and G. So if you're at your instruments, just quickly find that position, G, A, B, D, E, G. Kind of get your hand in, and get familiar with that, and realize that that's not so much a scale as it is a collection of notes, and so it might start anywhere. That might not always start on G. In fact, for this tune, if you're on a piano, it'd be a good idea to play that in a position that has your thumb on D, and your pinky on B. And if you fill in there in between, from the bottom up, D, E, G, A, B, you've got those 5 notes. Another quick way to think about it without a theoretical explanation is to realize that there are no C's or F sharps. We just have the notes that are a whole step apart, no half steps. D, E, G, A, B is a good hand position. And by position, I mean the keys on the piano, not so much the way your wrist lies, which is another use of that word. So we're just going to put together the tune by ear here. And if you're a teacher, this is the same way you would teach it to your students. So when I say down the scale, in this case, I'm referring to the pentatonic scale. So we're going to start on B and just come straight down. So the B does repeat. Bad. And you can hear how that dee-da brings us back to tonic, the home note. So that's pretty easy. Just grab those 5 notes and repeat the first one. Go, tell it on the mountain. All right, you can hear it needs that change there. So it goes up a step, over the hills and everywhere. So what was that? A, lots of A's. Over the G, A, B, A, B, A, G. So here's what we have so far with a simple bass line. Let's do that one more time, just because you got to know the melody in a way that you're almost feeling it's tedious or boring, so we can pile ideas onto it. Try that again. It starts on B, repeats the B note, comes down the scale, hangs out on an A for a while, and then goes back up to the B note and back to G. I just think about it as a shape. 1, 2, ready, and... Let's repeat that. So I'm pretty sure that we all have that. And so the second half, like many tunes, if you get into the structure of it, you can realize that there's a lot of repetition. So when you learn the first few measures, a lot of times you know a lot of the tune. So the second strain does the same beginning. And in fact, it goes to the A, but it circles around this time a little differently. Jesus Christ is born. So that's A, B, G, A, G. So let's compare measure 3 and 4 with measure 7 and 8. Here's measure 3. Here's measure 4. Now, I'm not going to hide the fact that I'm looking at music because this is very easy for me to play by memory or heart or feel or instinct. But when I'm teaching, I want to make sure I teach it correctly before we start messing around with it. Also, starting in the middle of a tune can sometimes scramble my brain. So I am using a little cheat sheet here, just a lead sheet, and I'll throw that away in just a second to be clear. So there's our A section. So hopefully we have that. That's simple enough. It's all pentatonic, and it all lies in that position between D and B, very comfortably in the hand. That's why I picked it for the first of this series about a barrel of carols that I'll be doing for the next couple months. The second half moves the hand up to a larger range. Initially, it's just that 5-finger position we're all used to, G, A, B, no C in this case, because we are using only pentatonic, G, A, B, D, and even up to E. So the second half, while shepherds kept their watching, is outlining a G chord. And then up to E. So, root third, fifth third, right? So it starts on G and goes to B. 1, 2, 3, while shepherds kept their watching. Okay, so there's the first half of the first bit of the B section. And then it moves to a chord change. So while silent, over silent flocks by night. Over silent flocks by night. So that was G, A, G, A, B. Let's do that one more time. The B section. Now, as I said before, if you get into the structure, you already know pretty much the second half of the B section. Because it's almost the same. So that's all the same. But this time it works its way down. And then it's nice to put a C on top. Like it's, oh, you know, like a wind up. Go tell it us. So let's look at that one more time. B, D, D, E, D, B. A, A, G, A, B. Now pretty much the same. But this time it comes down. A, A, G, E, D. When in doubt, pen out. If you quote me on that, make sure you give me credit. That's one of my most famous comments because the pentatonic scale is so forgiving. When you're not sure of the right note, stick to those 5 and you'll be okay. Now you've just learned the whole tune because the form is ABA, and so when we come back to the A, maybe we'll change it up a little bit, but it's pretty much a repeat of what we already know. So one more time, just the whole tune so we can pile onto it. Go, starting on B, B, down the scale, back to tonic, A, flourish. That repeats, B, down the scale to D. A with a little circle. Second half, change your hand position so your thumb's on G. The B, D, D, E, D, B, G, A, G, A, B. It pretty much repeats. Except right here. Oh! Jazz hands. So there's the tune, and now we're going to have the fun with it. Let's just check in with our visitors here. Allegra stopped by, another adult student. Glad to see you. Diana, thanks for that. Charisse, yeah, glad to see you again. Lots of people here. Elizabeth, new here. Yeah, I don't recognize your name. I'm very glad you stopped by. Suzanne Preston, coming to me from Sao Paulo, Brazil, if that's how you say it. Peggy Taylor says you could play these on the black keys. Correct. The G-flat pentatonic scale is the pentatonic. Good observation. So we've got the tune. Let's look at the basic chords, and then we're jazzing up a little bit. So I preset this here so I could spin my camera and show you a chord chart. So if we just analyze this before we get all reading it, sometimes pianists just, oh, that's a G and that's a G. That means repeat it. Oh, and then there's a D, and they see these as individual events. But I would encourage you to squint your eyes and see them as a big macro event. So look at this. A whole bunch of G's. Every phrase starts with G, right? Almost every phrase halfway through has a D, and of course it returns to G. So the first 3 phrases from a harmonic standpoint are the same chords with conventional chords for this. And then the last phrase is a little bit different with an A7 preceding the D7. For those of you who've had a little bit more theory training, of course that's a 5 of 5 or a secondary dominant. So it's a big sound with gospel and spiritual music to have that secondary dominant. It's also found all through ragtime and sort of playable classical music. So what do I mean by that? I'm not sure. I mean, as opposed to the crazy hard stuff. All right, so we're going to put these chords to it. For now, I'm just going to play them as quarter notes, and then we'll zip them up, okay? So just try this out. I recommend, just to make it easy, we'll put this with a D in the bass. So D, G, B, that'll fit your hand nicely. And then when we get this D chord, you can keep your pinky where it was, D, F sharp, A. It just sort of all works out like that. When you get to your A7, if you like, just for now, you can play it with a C sharp on the bottom. So maybe I'll just mark that because that's a good position for our hands. These are just D underneath there. These are just to give us a basis for the first time through. So just learning the chords, I'm going to just do kind of a pulse like this. I'll go over here to the piano, but I'll leave the chords up temporarily. So I'll be off screen, but here I am with you. I'm here. So G, 1, 2, ready, and D chord, G, second line, D chord, second half. I hope you're doing this by heart. D chord. Here's your A. I played a jazz chord. And then that C, that jazz hand C. So how are we doing so far? Give me a little thumbs up or something so I know. That we're ready to doll that up. Do you need it again? You're probably okay. I think we got some pretty heavy pianists in here that learn quickly. a lot of times pianists use their eyes and not their ears while they're playing. So this one's going to force us to use our ears a little more, and then use our brain to kind of hang on to what's logical, how the chords fit the melody, and how the pentatonic fits the chords. Sarah says she's got it. Okay, good. Yeah, a lot of people know this tune. Just when in doubt, pent out. So now let's doll this thing up a little bit. That's the basic, and this is where you could stop if you were teaching a more of a less experienced student, or less of a more experienced student. I don't know which is better. So we're gonna get, we've got the chords, we've got the melody. Now we're gonna doll it up, and we're gonna do that in the style of a book that's from my That's Jazz Christmas series. There's 3 levels that goes along with the 9-book jazz series. So this is That's Jazz Christmas number 1, and there's That's Jazz Christmas number 2, and there's an arrangement of this in here that is similar to what we're hitting today. In fact, we'll be learning that in the course that I'm teaching right now called That's Jazz Christmas. We've had 2 lessons so far. The next one is next Tuesday. It's not too late to get on board if you don't mind watching the first 2 classes as replays, or just picking it up where we are. So if you want to learn more about that, I think there's probably a link from my good friend Tanya coming up there pretty soon. The last one is this That's Jazz Christmas 3, and that's just showing this series. But there's a fun little thing to this, in that there's some cameos that the illustrator made. For many years, those of you who know me for a while, I had the typical long-haired, musician's hair, and he makes funny references to that. You had the ponytail, and so I don't know if you've noticed, but the snowman here has a little grass behind there showing my ponytail, and he put a couple cameos in the book, which was a lot of fun for me to see. So anyway, if you want to see a written version of what we're learning today, it's in this book, although I don't play anything ever the same way twice, and I encourage my students not to do the same. I regard written music as a suggestion, not a rule. All right, so let's just make this a little jazzier, just a little jazzier. And an old timer told me one time when I was first getting into jazz music and improvising and pop music, and that you can make any tune jazzy by putting on a 6th or a 7th onto the chords. Now, that's a greatly oversimplified way to describe jazz. There's so much more that can be happening or gospel or any improvised style, but it doesn't make it less of a very good tip. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and do that. We're going to take these chords, and we're going to put think of them as having 6ths or 7ths on them. So I realize there's actually a lesson going on here that is not just how to learn this tune, but how to turn a simple tune into a jazzier tune. Maybe that's a better way to say it. So we're going to make these first couple of G chords G6 chords, and so we'll go right down here and do this on the A section. Let's just do the A section, and you could leave this a G, or you could make it a 6th chord. So we'll put a 6 beside there, and that means that instead of G A B D, we have G A B D E as its sort of basic setup. Remember that the 6 is not really a chord tone; it's just an added color. So G A B D or G B D, add that 6 to it. You can kind of hear, that's 1940s sound, that kind of stuff. So that we recognize that sound as a characteristic of earlier jazz, and still used today. Now we're going to make another little adjustment here. We're going to give this a little bit more of a blues flavor by ignoring this D chord, and instead we're going to make this a C, which is the 4, and that makes it more like a 1/4 in blues a little bit. And this is a common gospel chord progression, and we'll make that a 6 as well. So instead of a D there, we're going to play a C6, C E G A in its sort of playing position. And then this is still going to be like a G chord, but we're going to do a couple things to make it neater. In a jazz world, we often precede the 5 chord, or the D, with a 2. And so the 2 in the key of G, the 2nd chord, there's so many numbers in music, the 2nd chord in the scale is an A minor. So we're going to play an A minor 7 here. And we're going to put that, just to make life simple, over a D. So that's a neat sound. That's an A minor 7, which are the notes A, C, E, G. But we play a D in the bass. Okay, but furthermore, we're going to have the melody note up on top of that, which is which is an A. So you want to position it in a way that has the A up on top, and then we play the D. Okay, but the melody has a little dee ba doo da dee, right? It has that little B and G. So we're going to play a quick G chord here, real quick. Also over a D, and then the D7, just to accommodate that melody where it has that B, G in the melody. If you forget about that and just play a D7, that'll sound pretty good too, actually. Okay, so now we have a pretty cool sound here, but there's it's a little awkward to get from the G to the D. So we're going to do a little really neat trick, and that's to take a 4 chord in a gospel tune and change its quality. So on the second half of this measure, we're going to have, so this is still G, but on the second half of this measure, we're going to have a C and a C minor. And to make that more comfortable for the hand and make a neat little bass line, we're going to play E underneath that and E flat under that. So I'll show you just that part right now. Let's have a listen. Just with the chords. Let's go ahead and see if I can get a little bit in the picture. I realize you can't see that. Okay, there it is. And then the C6. Play an E over under this C. Then an E flat. Ah, isn't that so gospelly and wonderful? And then here's your A minor over D. G over D. D7. G. So I'm putting some chords in my right hand, a little thing called a hang chord. I'm putting some harmonies in my right hand to bring this out. Now, to soup it up even more, on the bottom half of this tune, let's make these 7s instead of 6s. So we put 7s everywhere. That'll give it that extra color. So we'll leave these as they are, but we're going to make those all 7s, which means we're going to have F naturals in our G chords. G, B, D, F. So just think to yourself, overall, the first half we're using 6ths to color the chords and some optional chord changes. If you didn't get all these the first time, that's fine. It'll still work without them. And then we're going to add 7ths to the second, okay? Half. And then it'll repeat the A because that's the form, A, B, A. All right. Let me check in with my people here. I was just going to type it. It's not a C instead of a D. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, maybe some people would play the C more naturally. Yeah, it depends on what hymnal or what collection you're looking at. So appreciate that, Elizabeth. Okay, so now we got to put a bass line to this. Yeah, Diana says it's more of a gospel feel. She totally knows the gospel thing. It's in her blood. She's been playing gospel music in church for years and years. So we're going to make a left hand that's a boogie pattern, or some people think of this as a Western pattern, as in like cowboy movies. And that's the funniest thing, because Western swing is no cowboy ever sang swing music. It was kind of invented by Roy Rogers and Gene Autry and all those guys imitating the popular music of the day, which was swing music. So that whole sound you're gonna recognize as G D E D. You know, on the trail with the doggies. You know, you could kind of hear the 1950s and early 60s version of what cowboy music was thought to sound like, but it was totally a movie thing. So we're going to do that on the first half. G, D, E, D, G, D, E, D. And in order to get to this E coming up here, there's a little cool thing you can do. It's here's the bass line. G, D, G, F sharp, E. B flat, D, 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 G, G, D, G, F sharp, E. So let me show you the first half. I'm going to add some harmony to my right hand. That means I'm just playing chord tones under the top melody note. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. So that you can do that there if you like. I think that's a cool way to connect it. And then on the second half, we're going to play all sevens. So in order to get that, we're going to expand that boogie pattern. G, D, E, D, F. There's your seventh. D, E, D, G, D, E, D, F, D, E, D, G, D, E, D. Now here's a pro tip. If you hold your pinky down, it'll sound like a held note in the bass. Now you have an illusion that there's a musician playing motion over a held note in the left hand. So there's a little advanced tip for you. Okay, so we put this all together now, and I wish I could show you the chart at the same time. I'll give you one more chance to write that down because I'd rather look at you than, and I think it's the same, than staring at a bunch of chords. When in doubt, pen out, play lots of G's. You can't get into too much trouble. Remember this secondary dominant, that's an important one right there. All right, so let's put that together. Melody and bass, and if you can add some chord tones to your right hand, if you're chord fluent, then that'll fill it out. But if you just have the melody, that's just fine as well. So it's something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. C6. Second half, this is where the sevenths come in. What was that? There's a new little sound there. Dee-da-dee-da-dee-da, B, E minor. We're going to stick in this measure. Why? Why does that work? Well, that sets up our dominant chord. That sets up our secondary dominant. In the key of D, for those of you who are theory folks, this is a 2-5-1. So it's a temporary little jazz cliche of 2-5-1, except the 1 is a 5, which sends us back home. So this is a really nice chord, and maybe you can just make a general note that when you're playing gospel music, a lot of times going down to the 6th chord just sounds good. So add that to your piece of paper there. I hope you're writing this down. And I'll play that second half again. I'm staying very carefully away from any Fs on the A section, and then they're more of a surprise when we get to the B section. So the second half again, B section with Fs. 1, 2, 3. Down to E minor. A7. And now we're back to the A section, but this time, since it's coming around, A, B, A, we'll keep our sevenths to keep the color happening. C7. Now, we don't have time to get into the improvisation, but that's the kind of thing I teach in my online jazz piano classes, to go deeper into the tools that an intuitive player uses underneath their intuition is knowledge and experience, of course. So, I'll just give you a couple of quick tips. But first, I just want to check in here. Suzanne, yeah, the C6 in measures 3 and 7, and when it becomes a C7 on the repeat of the A, that's a really nice sound. In fact, for those of you who are have big hands, you can play the B flat in your thumb. Because an A in the melody and a B flat in your thumb. That's a really colorful chord. Some of us may not even like that. Let me just check in with a couple other folks here. Great preparation for our upcoming class. Thanks, Bradley, says Carol. Yeah, Carol, I was wondering if you were going to say, well, how come he's teaching things for free that we signed up in a class for? Well, of course, we're going to go a lot deeper in class. Learn to improvise and do some tricks with it. But right now, I would say, to answer the question, what are the best notes for improvising? It's a question you get a lot. What are the best notes for improvising? And you'd think, well, there can't be any way to answer that because it depends on the tune and the context and the style and all that. But here's just a great pro tip. What are the best ideas? Thanks, D. Your harmony ideas make me smile. I love harmony. The best notes for improvising, think to yourself, what would that be? And you might say, oh, the blues scale, the pentatonic scale. Here's just like a duh. The best notes for improvising are the notes in the tune. So if you take the notes in the tune, which in this case is all pentatonic, and just mix them up, you can get some cool effects. So I'm going to use those same notes, and I'll be careful not to totally play the same rhythm so it seems more improvised. So I'm coming back to that A section, and I'm using G, A, B, D, E, or some different starting note of the pentatonic, and I'll just hang out on that. So when you have to improvise, and then just to give it a touch of color, I'll drop this hint on you. Play some B flats as well. Have them be in service of your B naturals. So instead of playing just B, maybe you play B flat B. You know, that sound is so nice. So maybe one more look at the chords here, then I'll get you out of here. I promise I'd keep this close to a half an hour. So there they are. We turned the basic primary chords into sixths on the first half, and driven by the 2-5 here, to review, driven by this jazz sound, we came up with these chords to sort of set it up, to sort of get us to there in the bass line, and also to pick up that gospel trick of changing the quality of a 4 chord. On the second half, we added sevenths to give it a little extra color, and then this 2-5, temporary 2-5-1 in the key of D down at the bottom here. And then we decided to keep the sound of the sevenths, but with these chords as we went to A, B, A. So I'll go out right now by playing that. If you need to kick off, that's okay. I'm just going to jam out on this tune a little bit and see where it takes me now that we've done the educational part of it. So I really want to thank you for coming by. And if you want to just hear some ways that you might improvise on this, hopefully my students will be able to do this in another couple weeks when we hit this tune in class. Again, I like to start with introductions to set the mood. I do have some foot percussion down below if you're wondering where that's coming from. It's just playing with my feet here. Can be a nice exercise to try to make music with one hand. Can you sell a tune just with one hand? Hello, boys. The band just came in. Got my bass player and my movement player. Right hand, you ready to sing it? Here we go. Repetition. Had to get a couple jazz chords in there. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time in my improv tip of the month as we learn our second Barrel of Carols Christmas tune by you. See you then.